Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to my channel. I'm so glad you stopped by. And today we're gonna be talking about my favorite photos from February. And I'm going to limit myself to my top 5 favorite photos. A few more might mix in there, but these are my top 5 favorite photos from the month of February 2020. So let's jump into it. Okay, my number 5 photo from this month is from when I got to go flying with my friend Sheldon a few days ago, actually. And he and his wife Melissa were in town. They actually live in Texas now, but they're in town. And so he rented a plane and was like, hey, you wanna go flying? And of course I was like, yes. But this time was very different than the last time that I talked about in my 2019 video. This was at like noon. It was in the middle of the day. And so I snapped this picture. And it's not what I expected would be my favorite picture from this trip. It's just of all the dials and controls and gauges from inside the airplane. You have the yokes, the like steering wheel things in there. One is super blurred out because I was shooting with a 50 at like, I think I was at like 1.4 or 1.8. So I liked this picture. It turned out cool. I liked how it looked. It was really dark, but then just some of the gauges really popped. So that's my number 5 picture. My number 4 picture is also something that I didn't expect. So one night I was at home and I decided to mess around with a different style of photography than I ever have before. So it was kind of like a product-y photo thing. And I saw this in a YouTube video, something kind of like this. And so I was like, you know what? I'm gonna try it. I don't have anything going on. So I did this setup and I put this glass, this pitcher thing down on, really, it's just my kitchen table, and lit it a certain way. And I filled up the pitcher and I just started dropping fruit in it. I connected to my camera with my phone. And so I would just get ready to drop the fruit, hold the shutter button and drop the fruit in it. And so I got this picture and I really liked it. I think it's really cool because you see all the water sloshing around. You see the strawberries dropping in. You see the drops on the top of the pitcher, like coming out of it. And they just kind of look like ice, basically. And so I really like this picture. There's a few things about it I didn't like, though. One, the pitcher is kind of like a weird shape. And so it actually made the fruit in a lot of the pictures look augmented and weird and like magnified or like misshapen. This picture, they didn't really look that weird. And so that's another one of the reasons I like it. The other thing was I didn't shoot at as high of a shutter speed as I think I should have. I think I should have gone a little bit higher because a lot of the times until the water, the strawberries hit the water, they would not be frozen in space. There was a lot of motion blur. But once they hit the water, it was fine. But if you look really closely at the top, even those water droplets coming out, there's a little bit of motion blur there. So they're not quite sharp. But all in all, I really like that. I went through a bunch of different versions of this. I probably shot like this for 2 hours. Here's a little picture of my setup with it. And it was just kind of funny because I'm shooting across my kitchen with a 70-200 onto my kitchen table, but it's all blacked out. So I really like how that turned out. It was just fun to mess around with and just do something kind of creative and different. So that is my number 4 picture. My number 3 picture takes place again in Rocky Mountain National Park. And my parents were in town. They live out of state, and so they came into town. And so me and my wife took them up to Rocky Mountain National Park and just wanted to spend some time up there. It's always fun to go up there, especially with people who don't live here. And so we went up there. We went to Bear Lake, and it's really cool because this time of year, Bear Lake is completely frozen over up there. So you can walk out on the lake. There's even like a little waterfall on the other side that's frozen. But we did not spend almost any time there because we got out and it was so windy and cold. But the nice thing was we got there right when the sun was setting behind the mountains, basically. So I snapped this picture and I set my f-stop very high in order to get this sunburst. You can't get that normally if you're shooting at a wider, or I always get it confused, lower. If you're shooting at like 1.4, 2.8, all that stuff, you can't get this. So you have to go up. I think it was at f22 when I got this. And it kind of bursts that. sun. And so I really like that. I like that there's this just shadow kind of covering the mountains and coming from the trees. I really like that a lot. It doesn't count in my top 5, but this is what it looks like if you don't go to F22 and burst it. It's actually really cool also. And so you kind of get this awesome flare. This is a very similar shot. Something I did better on this shot is I like that there's a tree on the left side in the foreground there. It kind of gives the image a little bit more depth. But the other one with the burst I think is my favorite just because it's a little bit more unique. Maybe it's not, but I like it a lot. One night, I got home really, really late. I went to a late movie with some friends. We went and saw 1917, which is an amazing movie, by the way. You should go see it if you haven't. And I got back at like midnight or so. It had been snowing. For some reason, it was super foggy, and the trees were all like icy and white, but there was also just this crazy fog. And so I just went outside my house at like 1 in the morning and started taking pictures because I was like, this is awesome. I wasn't tired because I was still thinking about the movie. And I snapped this picture. Now, what's crazy about this picture is that my house is right there. Like, this tree is in my front yard. And on a normal day, this would look so terrible because my house would be there. You'd see all this stuff. But in this picture, it's super dark. All you see is the street light kind of pouring in and lighting up the tree, which I like how it created this very specific direction of light onto the tree, and the rest is super dark. I also like that just the tree is a little bit lit up. There's the part that's in focus is really bright, and then it kind of just disappears and gets darker and darker and darker around the edges. And I really, really like that. Sometimes you got to take pictures at weird times to get some cool stuff. So that happened at 1 in the morning, someday in February, and I really like that. That is my second favorite photo of the month. And my number 1 favorite photo of the month was taken on my way to work. It had just been a massive snowstorm, and so everything was white. And there's this river by my house, which sounds really cool. I don't think it's actually that great, but there's this river, so sometimes when it gets really cold, there will be all this steam and fog that comes up off the river, which is really annoying to drive in, but makes for really cool pictures. So I snapped this picture. The cool thing about this picture is, like I said, this whole area is actually really boring and not cool at all. But with the fog and with all the frost on all the branches and twigs, and with the bridge there, it just looked really moody and just really unique. If I were to go take that picture on a beautiful summer day, you'd be like, that is the worst picture I've ever seen in my life. But with all the fog and unique stuff there, it just transformed it into something cool. And it was one of those things where I'm driving to work and I had to stop, pull over there, and take a few pictures because I just couldn't help it. So again, I said this a few videos ago, but bring your stuff with you. Bring your camera with you, even if you're just leaving it somewhere, but you have it while you go so that you can take advantage of cool opportunities, stop for 5 minutes, and get some awesome shots. So those are my top 5 favorite photos from the month of February 2020. I hope you liked it. If you did, give it a thumbs up, leave a comment, let me know what your favorite picture was. I'm gonna link my Instagram and a Smug Mug folder with all of these photos if you wanna look at them in more detail. I might even put a few more that I didn't mention in this video as a little bonus if you wanna go check that out. So I will see you guys in March with my top photos 2020 March. I'll see you then.